then once we present, after that we go into the proposal phase, and then we go, obviously, for the close. Okay? Now, when I came last time, I talked about the presentation phase. How do you present things in such a way that you're more likely to get a yes than a no? Now, I'll give you the small story because I need to build some credibility for those who've never heard me, because I want you to, this is not theory. I was working for a company as a consultant. They hired me as a speaker, and here's the short story, the rest is in the book. I had to sell a $3,000 product and a $6,000 product in one day from the front of the room. Okay? $3,000 product and a $6,000 product from day. First time I did it, we had about 150 people there. Let's just keep the number at 100 to keep the math simple. At the end of the day, 50% of the people actually bought. 48% was 50 people. 50 people bought. Here's the interesting thing. 80% actually bought the $6,000 package. Run the numbers, it was a good day. You know what I'm talking about. And so that's what response block selling is how do you do the pitch from the front of the room or in a one-on-one as you're talking to somebody, okay? So this is not just presenting. What I want to do today is take a step back and go to the investigative process, which is right before the actual presentation, okay? We want to go to the investigative part. Now here's what happens. So, I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce, and I won't mention who I talked to because Trina might know who she is. True story, I'm not making this up. I'm not making it up. I'm frustrated. I'm a sales trainer, and I'm frustrated. Because I love a good sales pitch. I love when people know how to sell me. I'm like, oh, I love you. I'm not going to buy it, but I love you. And to me, it's like nails on a chalkboard when it's a bad sales pitch, right? And so the majority, 99.9% of the pitches I get from people are just horrible. I mean, just horrible. And they swear they've been in sales 30 years. And I'm like, shut up, you haven't. So the guy invites me. Trina knows we're part of the North Fulton County Chamber of Commerce, right? So the whole thing is that at the end of the day, you pull out your a business card, and you're supposed to make contact with that person and just relate to them, right? Just kind of get to know them. Now, there's a written rule that says you can't what? You can't sell to them, right? You cannot sell. So if you invite me for a cup of coffee, you can't sell to me. So I said, now, it's a financial planner. No offense. So I don't even know you. So I'm sitting there, and it's a financial planner. And so no sooner than we get our cup of coffee, wham, the immediate sales pitch about what he does, feature, benefit, feature, benefit, feature, benefit. And you've been there, right? All of a sudden I have that out-of-body experience. You know what I mean? Where my body's just floating up here, and I'm having this internal dialogue like they do in the movies, like, why the hell am I here? I really, this is externally I'm doing this. Internally I'm going, you know, what is this? You know, and so he's pitching me. So finally I leave, we're done. I politely kind of said, nice to meet you. And then it's one of those conversations where they speak for 35 minutes. You get 1 minute, and the conversation's done, right? And you feel like some dog has just humped on your leg. They had a good time, you didn't appreciate it. I'm sorry, I had to go. That's not taking wrong. We're all adults here, we can handle that one, right? That'll probably be the last time I'll be invited to speak in church. That's how I felt. It's like I felt so violated, because you drive there, you spend your time, you allocate time, you get there, and somebody who knows what the agreement is violates the agreement, and you walk away going, that was totally worthless. And so as I drove away, I got past the anger, and I go, why did that bother me? And this is about a year or two ago. I go, why did that bother me? I go, why was that sales pitch so bad? And obviously, the obvious one is they immediately lived into, here's what I can do for you, right? And then I realized, as I started to think about it, for the next, let's say, couple of weeks, it didn't happen overnight. You know, over time, you start really just kind of, it starts fermenting in your mind. And then I realized something. That in order to sell, I think I figured out at least the basic model of selling. And so here's what I want to do within the next maybe 20 or 30 minutes. I can give you a lot of information on selling, but I know what will happen. You'll take a lot of notes. You'll say, wow, that was good stuff, Vic. And then you'll go home, you put it on the shelf, and you won't look at it again. Within 1 week, studies have shown you'll forget 95%, which means this was a waste of time. Right? Let's be honest about this. But what if I can give you something that's easy to recall so that when you're in that moment and you're talking to somebody, you go, oh, that's right. I need to do this without having to remember a lot of things, okay? So this is what I'm going to do for you today. Just give you a simple model for selling that if you use this during the investigative process. Now remember, in the investigative process, we're not presenting the product yet. We're just what? Investigating. We're asking questions. That's all we're doing, okay? Now, well, here's what I discovered. Let me give you the big picture up here. I discovered in order to sell to anybody, you have to cross what I call 3 gaps. Now, all this is in my book, so don't write it. It's going to be in the book. Just kind of listen up here, okay? It's all in the book, okay? I'll tell you when you need to write something. I'm just trying to make this efficient. That's all I'm trying to do here. And so the first gap that you have to cross over is something called the awareness gap. What do I mean by that? The person has to be aware that they even have a problem. See, because if I don't have a problem, see, the financial planner is talking to me. I'm going, I ain't got a problem. He never asked me. He never asked me or tried to find out if I even had a problem. So in other words, I'm not aware that I have a problem. So the first point of selling is always to make people aware that they might have a situation that could be improved. Is everybody with me? Simple, make them aware. Now, just because they're aware, does that mean they're going to buy? No. You got to cross the second gap. That's the urgency gap, right? Which means, okay, now that you're aware of the problem, do you realize how much money you're losing or what it's costing you? And they go, yeah, I get the idea. That's the second gap. Then the third gap that you have to cross is okay, I know I need this. Based on what you told me, I'm so screwed if I don't do it, right? The last gap you got to cross is, how do I know you can help me? That is the trust gap, right? Now you got to demonstrate, right? So now if you have a hard time remembering those three gaps, it's real simple. I came up with an acronym, NUT, right? First they have to understand that they have a need. Then you got to create a sense of urgency, and then you have to build the trust to let them know that you can actually deliver. See, NUT. Got it? See, so from now on, you got to go, okay, where am I? Am I in the end stage, U stage, or am I in the T stage, okay? Very simple, right? So far, so good. All right, so let's say that we're talking to somebody. We need a structure for our conversation because asking questions is the key to selling. Now, I want you to take out paper and pen and do this exercise with me. If you know what this exercise is, Trina knows what this is, so Dina, so do this exercise with me. Don't let your neighbor look at your answers. Cover it up, okay? Do me a favor. There's a reason for this exercise. I want you to pick a number between 2 and 10. Don't let your neighbor see it. Okay, 2 and 10. Got it? Now take that number, and if you know what this exercise is, just play along with me. Take that number and multiply it by 9. 9. Multiply it by 9. You got a new number, right? So you have a 2-digit number, right? Okay, take those 2 digits, add them together. You should get a new single-digit number, right? Subtract 5 from that number. Subtract 5 from that number. No cheating and looking at other people's papers, folks. It's not a test. You should have a new number, right? Now, take that number and associate it with the letter of the alphabet. So if number's 1, it's an A. It's 2, it's B, 3, C, 4, D, 5, E. Get the idea? Yes. So you should have a letter now. Yes. Now I want you to think of a European country that starts with that letter. Write that country down. A European country that starts with that letter. You got it? Okay, second. Now that you got the name of the country, go to the second letter of that country and think of a large mammal that starts with that letter. Okay. Is everybody with me so far?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, whoever's with me, just keep nodding yes. All right. Now that you know what that large mammal is, I want you to write down the color of that mammal. Write down the color of that mammal. Now let me ask you a question for those who are still with me. Are there any great elephants in Denmark? Who got it?
Yeah.
Who followed? Okay, most of you followed, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that helped. Everybody's like, what happened? Okay. If you would have followed along, everybody would have written Denmark down when I said what? Large country, European country, large mammals, elephant, and so forth. Now, all I did was structure a sequence of questions that guided you to the answer I wanted you to come up with. Isn't that what we want to do in selling? What if I can ask you specific questions that will GPS your way to where you want them to go? And where's that? To actually buy something from you, okay? So here's what I want to do. I want to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes giving you a question structure. So from now on, when you're talking to somebody and you know you're in the need, you're still in the need or urgency phase, you need to have a sequence of questions to ask, okay? So here's what we're going to do. Okay, remove all the notes that you have on your desk. Let's remove everything you got. We'll do this. I need you to do this in a little bit. What I need you to do is, I want you to take, grab 6 sheets of paper. Grab 6 sheets of paper, and I'll try to spread out. Grab 6 sheets of paper, pass it down, and I hope I have enough. 6 sheets, pass it down. Staple it, wait a minute, before you do, you're going to have to staple it, but here's where I want you to staple it. I want you to staple it, landscape, left-hand corner.
Yes, sir.
Staple the landscape, left-hand corner, okay?
Upper left.
Upper left,
Okay.
upper left, okay?
Okay, we
Right
can
there.
be trained, ladies, we can do this.
Okay, you can do this. I have faith in you. Now, for those of you who already stapled it, have your, on the first page, I'll wait for it to go around. I'll let it go around. Quick, ladies. Staple, move on. Remember, landscape, landscape. Beautiful. Okay,
Hurry up with that paper.
all right.
Yours is gonna come from
All right. As you're waiting for the staple to go by, here's what I want you to do. On the top of the first sheet, I want you to write the word situation. On top of the first sheet, I want you to write the word situation. Okay, real big, just like that. Situation. I got it? On the second sheet, I'd like you to write the word trouble. Okay, second sheet is trouble. Everybody got that? Second sheet is trouble. First sheet is situation. Second sheet is trouble. Third sheet is the word amplify. Amplify on the third sheet. Amplify goes on the third sheet. The fourth sheet is reward. Reward. Sheet number 4 is reward. Last sheet is tie down.
That's right.
Tie down. Like you tie it down.
That's a fifth sheet.
TIE dash down.
That's fifth sheet. Fifth sheet.
What?
That's fifth sheet.
Fifth sheet, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's it. So you should have 5 sheets. The last one I'm going to use for something else. All right. Let's do it again. First sheet, situation. Second sheet, trouble. Third sheet, fourth sheet,
Reward.
fifth sheet is what? You guys are with me now.
I was focused on writing.
Has everybody got their sheets? Don't worry about the stapler coming around. Just focus on your sheets for now. You guys got to get it.
We can multitask, we got it.
You can. We've already had this discussion. I can't do it. All right. So here's what I want to do. In order to actually teach you this sequencing phase, I need to assume a persona. In other words, a business. Okay. So what I want to do is show you how to sell. But sell in such a way that it doesn't come across as pushy, right? Because that's what we don't want to do. Because today, if you've gone to my other workshops, you know that if you try to pressure people into buying, they typically have something called sales reaction. They back off. They don't want to buy. Pressure works in a small sale. When it's a larger sale and the commitment is bigger and the relationship is for a longer period of time, it doesn't work. So we got to find a way to what? Nudge our way, question our way, get in there ever so gently in a subtle manner. Everybody with me so far? Just all right. So what I'm going to do is, I did this just for you. Not really, but I'm going to do web design. My service is a web design company. Now let me show you why I chose web design. Is that because it's kind of a product, but it's also a service as well. And I know some of you are offering a product, and some of you are offering a service. So it's kind of a hybrid, right? Product service. Would you agree with that definition? Is that okay with you? Sure, that you go. Cool. Okay. So what I want to do is, let's say that I want to sell my web services, okay? And I want to sell them to, let's say anybody in here. So here's what I want you to do. On the situation page, I want you to write certain things down about your current status with regard to a website. 1, do you have a website? And do this in bullet point, by the way. I have a website. How long have you had that website? Just write, I had the website 2 years. Any questions you can think of? Had a website 2 years? Are you happy with your traffic on your website? Do you like your design? So write that up. I like my design. I've had it for 2 years. Just give me your current status for your website. If you don't have a website, what do you write?
I don't have a website.
I just want to point out the obvious. That's all I want to do. All right, so everybody who has a website, just write your current, what do you think of your website? Do you like it? How about this? How about your conversion rate? You got good conversion rate? Bad conversion rate? Are you being found by the search engines? So you can write bad conversion rate, not being found by search engines. Okay? Anything else? What else would we ask somebody? If we're trying to sell them a website, what else do we need to know about their website?
What are you trying to accomplish?
What is that?
What's the goal of your website?
Let's just say, who's your target market? Who's your target market? Okay? Because that would lead to us to say, am I getting qualified people to my website?
Is your content current?
Is your content current? Good content. I'm happy with my content. All right. So we got a few, right? Can you think of any others? Just float them out there. All right. So let's say that I am now approaching you. Right? I am approaching you. This is an actual, here's how we're going to sell it. But let's walk through the process. I want to sell you, I'm buying your web service from me. I'm going to assume that you have a website already. But then I'm going to ask you key questions, right? Just to figure things out. And I'm going to say, one, do you have one? And you're going to say, yeah, I have one. I said, are you happy with it? Now, when you ask somebody if they're happy with it, what are they going to say most likely?
No.
You know, I like that when somebody says, yeah, real happy. How do you define happiness? You know, it always kills them because they like freak out for a second because they don't know why they're happy. I said, does that mean it's converting a lot of traffic for you? Yeah, are you with me on this? Is it converting a lot of traffic for you? What percentage of the traffic is it converting? Okay, see what I'm doing? I'm just asking questions. What percentage of the traffic is it converting? Now, if I ask enough of these questions, I'm just figuring out what the situation is. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out where you're at. Now, based on those questions, I can probably figure out that that person, if I look hard enough, because everybody in here has a problem, if I dig hard enough, I can find some problems with your website, right? So then we go over to trouble now. Based on the questions we asked, listen carefully. I found out, based on my conversation with you, that you're not happy with your conversion rate. Just put conversion rate bad, right? I also found out that you're not getting enough traffic, okay? Okay? And you can't find yourself on the search engine. How many folks read the book, The Google Story? Okay, so those who read it remember this line. There's an executive in there who says that if you're not on the first, second, or third page of Google, that's the equivalent of building a billboard in the forest. Because if you're not on the first, second, or third, you're not going to be found. So now I know that this person has a traffic problem, has a conversion problem, and also has a what? A marketing problem because they're not found on the search engines. So I now understand that these are three what I call pain points. We all know familiar with pain points, right? Now, when we know people are not getting enough traffic, they don't have a high enough conversion rate, they're not being found on the search engines, our job now is to really amplify that problem. Okay? So we go to Amplify. Let me ask you a question. Now here's what I'm going to have you do some work. Based on those three things, bad conversion rate, right? Not enough traffic, and can't be found on the search engine, how would you put that in question form to make it painful for the customer? How would you put that into question form? How would you put that in question form?
Ask about their feelings.
Ask about what?
Ask about their feelings about it.
I don't care about their feelings.
How much?
What are they losing?
I'm messing with you.
How much business are you
Okay, so we're
losing?
losing money. Okay, let's go back. I love it. Feelings? Not even that.
How does that compare
By the
to
way,
your? How do you feel about the fact that you're not?
How do you feel about
By the way,
losing?
listen, let's think about it. How do you feel about the fact that you're not making money? How's that? Okay, there. Okay, I'm only teasing you. So, in other words, write down some questions. How would you ask that question? I want to see how you write. Write down how would you ask them if you wanted to uncover pain, how much it was hurting them, or you wanted to amplify that situation to make it seem worse than what it really is. Because some people go, I got traffic, but that's okay. That's a good enough traffic. I'm happy with that.
How's it affecting their time or their family?
Okay.
What
Okay.
about finding their competition?
That's what.
That's the marketing, right?
Yeah.
All right. So could we come up with questions to amplify as follows? And then you guys follow my lead. I would ask questions. Let me just focus on the traffic piece. Okay? I said, how many visitors are you getting per day to your website? How many people here, don't lie, can tell me how many visitors on average are getting per day? Raise your hand. Okay. Now, leave your hands up. Leave your hands up. Now, how many hits are you getting? How many hits? How many unique visitors? How many visitors? Now, I need you to listen carefully. The phrase hits doesn't matter. You realize that, right?
Right.
Because that's just counting objects on the web page. In fact, hit stands for what? How idiots track success. So never use that. Okay? Set this up. Okay? So if I ask you how many visitors do you have, that's one metric. How many unique visitors you have is another metric. Right? So then, if I'm sitting with the client, I'm trying to sell them web service, I say, well, how many visitors do you get a day? How many visitors do you get a day?
10.
10 visitors a day. Okay, the average website gets 10 visitors a day. Are you happy with only 10 websites? 10 visitors per day? She's going to say what? No. Do you realize that people who are in your market space are actually getting what traffic? And can you find out how much traffic other websites are getting? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what I said, by the way, did you realize your competitor here, if you use a tool, by the way, how many folks use Alexa? Alexa, you put Alexa right on your Explore page or whatever Firefox, it tells you where they rank. By the way, if you don't know what Alexa is, this is what it is. It ranks the top 20 million web pages that are getting at least 10 visitors per day. And closest, you want to be what? Closest to what? Number one, right? Now, if you're in the top 20 million, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good,
It's a good thing, right? 'Cause by the way, that's the top 5%. Everybody else is 95 not getting that. So if I'm asking you, if I'm sitting down with you and I'm trying to sell you web services, and by the way, do you realize that your competition right here, when I type in the search term, I click on that. Not only are they on the first page, look how much traffic they're getting. I estimate they're getting about maybe 50 to 60 visitors per day compared to your 10. I said, do you think that's going to cause them a little bit of consternation? Because they're going to probably say what? Oh, okay. Now remember, need, urgency, trust, right? What am I still trying to do? You know, become aware, right, that they have a need. I said, by the way, I said, what are your 2-3 key words that people should search on you to find your web page? What are they going to say? This. And you typically, when you type it in, if they're very good keywords, they're not going to be on the first, second, or third page. Now, if I type in Terran Pizneski, I would be number one. Because there's probably only one Terran Pizneski word. So that's obvious. I've had people say, well, Victor, I ranked first for, I don't know, foot order supreme in Jamaica on my left foot. I said, yeah, well, anybody. Because you're probably the only one that would search that, right? So getting back to the point, as I'm talking to the client, what am I trying to do? Phrase questions to what? Amplify the whole need. Because if I can do that, if I can bother you enough to make you want to go, okay, I got a problem here. How urgent is the problem? Then I would ask questions. Let's get to the money part. I said, on average, what is one new client worth to you? What is one new client worth to you? This is a great question. Write that one down. What is one new client worth to you? $300 an hour? Okay, but just for one, typically it's just one sale. Give me, what's one client worth to you? $7,000 bucks. $1,000 bucks. Okay.
I don't know yet.
Okay.
$10,000.
$10,000. Mary Kay.
$1,000.
$1,000 bucks. Okay.
27.
There's somebody got. Yell out some numbers. What's one? Look, folks. If you don't know what one client is worth, you got a problem already. You got a problem already. You should know. By the way, financial planners is just. Well, Victor, what do you mean? Amortized over a year? I don't care. Is that what she's gonna say? What do you mean? I mean, no. Okay, we're not gonna charge you or anything like that. Just want a simple answer. If on average you get one customer, okay, for you especially, let's bracket it. One customer worth over 1 year.
Okay, that was what I did.
What did you get?
Good. I said 1,000.
Okay, 1,000.
Lifetime if you do it,
Okay. All right, so, does everybody know? So what's your number? What's your number? 7,500? 500? Okay. Okay, you get the idea. So now, what did I just do to the client? As I'm asking the question, I just take the number. I now have a number, so you're telling me that a client is worth $5,000 to you on average. Beautiful. Now, for those of you who went to my other workshop, you know that once somebody makes a public commitment, that was a statement that a client is worth $5,000, they won't back off from that position because they basically anchored a price for you. So now you have a price to sell against. So now, let's get back to this. So now I'm talking to somebody. So that's the key question you always ask. Because if somebody says, my average customer is only worth $100, and I heard that, $100, I said, you mean one customer, one time. I said, what if the person buys at least 2 or 3 times over the next 2 or 3 months? How much is it worth now? So on average, how much is it really worth over 1 year? And they'll probably say, well, Victor, over a year, it could be about $1,000. Over a lifetime, let's say over the next 3 to 5 years, if we say that's the lifetime, then that could be worth what? $2,000 to $5,000. I said, so let me ask you a question, getting back to my web stuff here. I said, if you're only getting 10 visitors a day, and they're getting 50 visitors a day, I said, do you think you're losing a part of that business? They're going to say what?
Yes.
Absolutely. I said, let me ask you another question. What's your conversion rate? What's your conversion rate? In other words, somebody finds your site, 100 people find your site. How many people actually buy from you? Now, the average conversion rate on the internet is
Well,
2%. Okay? Yeah, you can do a plus or minus, whatever you want. This 2% on average, right? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
just
How many say good?
It's a good thing.
How many say bad?
It just is. It
How
just
many
is.
say it just is?
It's just a statistic.
That's what it is.
You make of it what you want to make of it.
It just is. That's not an answer. 2%, it just is. No, it isn't. No, 2% is an average, but there is a bias to it. Here's the bias. That if I'm selling a $100 item, a 2% conversion rate, okay, on a $100 item is not going to be a lot of money. But what if one customer is worth $5,000 to me, then a 2% conversion rate is a great thing. Because if I can convert 2%, that really is a good thing. So if 100 people come to my site, only 2 people buy, it's only a $100 item, I've just sold $200. I'm not woo-hooing, if you know what I mean. But, if I have a product and my average customer is $5,000 and I have a conversion rate of 2 people buy out of 100, that's $10,000 we now woo-hoo, right? Big difference, okay? So it does matter what it is. But by the way, the 2% is what it is, you're right. It's really what you're selling is what I was going for, okay? So now, I'm talking to the customer, they've told me on average it's $5,000. I ask them what their conversion rate is. What do you think most people will tell me?
I don't
ask
know.
them, I have 0 clue.
Yeah.
At that point, you say, did you know that the average website conversion rate is 2%? And they're going to go, I didn't know that. I said, the fact that you don't know, I said, is a problem. Because, again, what is that whole statement? Ignorance is not bliss, right? So the same thing you go, I said, if you don't know what your conversion rate is, let's go back to how many visitors you get per month. Well, I think I get about 100, Victor. So, because you only get 100. So, how many people actually buy from your website?
Wow.
Well, we're not tracking that. So in other words, you could be losing potential customers. If you're telling me one customer is worth $5,000, let me ask you a question. If we could increase that percentage just by 0.5%, maybe 1%, that would mean what? 2 or 3 more people a month. Does that sound good to you? They're going to say, yeah, I like that, Victor. All I'm doing right now is creating the what? The need. The awareness first that your website sucks, right? Second, you move to the urgency phase, which is what? We're amongst friends here. The urgency phase is what?
Oh,
You're really losing a lot of business, right? Because if you're, first of all, you don't have the traffic, that's a problem. Second, you don't know your conversion rate, which means you could be losing money. And if you're telling me that your average customer is worth $5,000, just having 1 or 2 extra clients a month by driving more traffic, think about how much business you're losing as compared to pop up the competitor right there. Yes,
I have a
ma'am.
great question because you are talking about it. So
Absolutely.
I find the first question, people always just want examples of my work. So
Right.
how do you give, I mean, do you give examples of your work plus ask all these questions?
Okay.
I
We
mean,
haven't
how
got to
do
the
you-
presentation phase yet. Okay?
I just find that
By the
that's the
way,
very, very first
so-
step. That's what they want
By the
to
way,
see.
but
right?
that's the credibility part. Remember the trust part, that I can do it? I haven't
Okay.
got to the teeth yet. You're rushing me.
Well,
By the way, remember the
Yeah.
need? Remember the need, right? Then we established an urgency that there is a problem.
Okay, so they skip that part and go right to the trust part. Do I
Don't
like,
let 'em.
do
What
I
do you do?
ignore the trust part and then go back?
By the way,
to
give the answer, give the answer. Was that?
A few questions first.
They always say that. People always ask me, yeah, and you know, by the way, show me what you can do. You know, I said, well, let me ask you a few questions first so I can better understand what it is you need. I'd be more than happy to do that. Remember, as soon as they take control, you're screwed. As soon as somebody says, well, show me what it is without building value, then you're done. And I think a lot of us do that because we just kind of want to respond to the customer. But no, unless you control the conversation politely, you're not going to. So if we create the need first, we create the urgency that you're losing a lot of business. I said, now they go, well, how do I know that you can help me, Victor? Right? Then you move into the reward part, right? And the reward part is where you can start putting in some of your testimonials. I said, I worked with company what? A, B, C, and here's what they saw. I worked with companies da-da-da, and here's what they saw. Now, when you're in the web business, this is a very particular business, you can't make guarantees on conversion. You just can't because there's too many variables, right? But all you can guarantee that you will drive more traffic to their website, right? Whether you're using pay-per-click, ad zoo, search engine optimization, or some geo-targeting that you're doing, right? You can typically drive more traffic. I said, here's what I've seen with my other customers. We've driven more traffic to your site. Even if you maintain a 2% conversion rate, if I can double your traffic, that would mean on average 2 new customers, and you told me that your customer on average is worth what? $5,000, which means that's about a $10,000 increase in your revenue. And what do you think they're going to say? I like that, right? So now, so you got to the reward part. We got to the trust part. All right, here's the reward. If you do these things, we can move this forward. This can happen. Now, here's the key point that I don't see people do, is that let's say I show them a couple examples. One of the things that I found out works effectively is at the beginning, we found out what some of the problems were. They didn't understand the conversion rate. They also didn't understand their what, how much traffic they were getting, and they also what, were having problems what, people finding that in terms of marketing, right? So what are we doing? So based on our earlier comments, by the way, I'm really compressing this whole conversation, but now I go to the tie down. I said, Jan, early on at the beginning, we said there were 3 things that you said were important to you. One was what? The amount of traffic, the conversion rate, and if I can help you gain more market share by having more people find you. These are the 3 things that are important for you. I just showed you that with X customer, we drove more traffic, but da-da-da, they improved their conversion rate by once in a while. Is there any other reason? And by the way, based on the fact that you don't be the average customer is $5,000, is there any other thing that we need to talk about before I actually show you what we do? Okay? Because remember, what did I say earlier? We do the prospecting, we do the qualifying, we do the investigative piece. See, this is where we can't jump the gun. If you decide to present before you ask all the key questions up front and get all the information you need, you shoot yourself in the foot. Because as you're talking to somebody, what happens? They're basically giving you all the ammunition you need to sell them. So when I get to the tie down, so let me get this straight. You're telling me if I can help you with your traffic, if your conversion rate, and your marketing, you would be at least open to considering what we have to offer. Obviously, it falls within your price rate and within your budget. At that point, what did I just do? I just opened them up for the conversation now, which is now, well, let me show you what we do. And now I go into the presentation. And so I can't do the presentation because that was the last workshop we did. Okay? And I'll send you the book on that. I'm going to send you 2 books. By the way, if you haven't figured out the acronym, it's START. It's a situation, right? Figure out what the situation is. Identify some of the trouble spots that they're having. Okay? You know, identify key places that they're having problems with. Now, then you amplify those problems. Then you reward them by saying, if we can turn that around and show you how best to do this, does that make sense to you? They're going to say, yeah. Then tie it down with, okay, so you're telling me if I can show you how to do this, this, and this, you would at least be open to it if it was within your budget. Okay? Let's take makeup. Can I do makeup? Off the top of my head, how would you market makeup? What's the situation when somebody wants to buy Mary Kay? What's the situation? You walk into a house, you're talking to somebody, what's the situation? You guys are the makeup experts, not me. What would be some of the questions? Help her out.
Do you feel confident?
For me, it's ease, quality.
First of all, we want to find out if you're happy with what you're using, right? By the way, what are your typical complaints when it comes to makeup? Are you happy? Is it too expensive? What else? Does it stay on? Beautiful.
Helping your skin.
It's helping my skin. So all this, okay. So
Is it affordable?
If I ask those key quick in the situation, I find out everything that it's not staying on. It's some of it is right. So when you move on to the trouble spot, now you're going to say, okay, so these are the 3 or 4 things that I know you're not happy with. Let's talk about your skin for a second. And now I amplify the skin. I said, by the way, did you know if you continue to use product A, this is going to happen. And over time, this could be the result. Now, you may be saving a little bit of money because you're da-da-da-da-da-da. Let me tell you what it's costing you in the long run. Okay? So what did I just do? All I did was amplify the problem. Right? That's all I did. And then I go to the next item, whatever it may be, whether it's hair care, nails, so forth and so on. When I get to the reward process, the reward step, what do I want to do? I said, look, we've talked about skin, staying on, permanence, whatever, right, and price. I said, if I can show you that we can do these 3, would you at least consider some of these? I said, okay. In the tie-down, you say, let me just show you this, this, and this, and this, and I think this will fit your need. Am I going too fast? Does that make sense? Because you should have that structure. If you don't have that structure, what happens is you tend to what? Jump the gun every time. And so here's what I found out what people do. Now let's look at the percentage standpoint of what most people do when they're selling. Because here are the biggest crimes committed in selling. First of all, women are better at this than men. But most of us, a lot of us, don't listen well. And by the way, you know why you don't listen well? I figured it out. I got the key. Figured it out. And I'm here to share it just with you. I haven't shared this with anybody else. Here's the reason why we don't listen. Our brains process information at 600 to 800 words per minute. The average person speaks at 150 to 200 words per minute. So what happens is when somebody's talking, your brain is processing faster. So you ever been in that situation where somebody's talking to you and this is what your mind is doing? This is what your brain is doing. Or, but you're like this. But you're like, And you can't. And so what happens is that's the reason, because your brain's processing. And by the way, the worst way to kill a conversation is to say things like this: "I knew that." Say that a couple of times, you just killed the whole conversation. I knew that. Or you step on a person's conversation, or you finish your sentence for them, right? But here's why listening works. Studies have shown that this is why listening works, and most people don't understand this. That if we're having a conversation, in fact, let me back up. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody that was, you talked for like an hour or two, and then you walk away and say, that was one of the coolest conversations I've ever had, right? Now, if there was a third eye looking over you to analyze that conversation, you were doing 80% of the talking. You really were. Right? You were doing most of the talking. That's why it was a great conversation, because it was broadcasting more than anything else, right? But here's what's interesting. So when you're talking to somebody, here's why listening works. If I'm talking with Jane, so if I'm talking to Sandra, and so we're talking back and forth, and I keep asking Sandra questions. Sandra says something, I say, what about that, Sandra? Sandra says something about it. And then I ask her what they call empathizing questions, right? Well, tell me a little bit more about it, because I really want to know more about that, right? The whole open question thing, right? And so they give you more information. Now, here's what's going through Sandra's mind. I said, man, he's really a good listener, right? Second, she goes, because he's a good listener, he must be really interested in what I'm saying. Because he's interested in what I'm saying, well, that kind of validates the information I'm giving him, or else he would keep asking me more about it, right? And the fact that he finds that information so great, that validates me, and what helps my self-esteem? It rises, and because my self-esteem rises, who do I associate that good feeling with? Right? That's why it works. Thank you very much. That's why it works, because that's what you're doing. But here's the key thing. If you ever want to get information out of a customer, you have to ask those empathizing questions. Studies have shown that if you simply nod, obviously you pause, right? But you nod just 3 or 4 times on a rhythm, people will tend to give up 25% more information. Isn't that something? Yeah. So you just sit there and you go.
What about over the phone? What about
by the way,
over the phone?
What's that?
What about over the phone?
Over the phone?
Yeah, you
That's
can't nod.
harder. The reason over the phone is harder, and there's a difference between narrowcasting and broadcasting. When I am talking to Sandra here, I see visual, facial, everything, right? Tone, everything. Over the phone, it's narrowcasting. All you hear is tone and voice. That's why it's harder.
Yeah.
But what I've done over the phone is I condition people with the pause. And all you gotta do is wait. The thing is, we hate the pause. Even though the pause is the greatest thing in the world. Just pause. Once in a while, just pause. Just for the hell of it. You just like freak out. Oh, still there? Yeah, you still there? I was so caught up with what you were saying. Go ahead. You know what I mean?
I love that.
I'm teaching my son all this, you know? My son. Okay, here's how it works. And so, by the way, the conversation, so let's go back to the original premise here. Need, urgency, trust, right? Those are the 3 gaps we have to cross. If I find out what the situation is and I'm talking to somebody, I'm simply asking what's going on. In the trouble, I'm just trying to find out where you're unhappy. Once I find out trouble where you're happy, I want to amplify that by asking you questions that really burrow into that unhappiness, right? And then the reward part is I said, okay, if we were able to change that, how would that benefit you? And the tie down is right before the presentation. We'll go, so if I can show you that I can help you with this, and if it's within your budget, it makes sense, would you at least consider it? Most people are going to say, what? Yes. And it's not what? It's not for selling. Questioning works, but we don't practice it. So start, right? Situation, trouble, amplify, reward them, and then tie it down at the end. And people want to say, Victor, does it really work? And so I want to do something. I want to show you this because I think it does. If you can do this right, I think it'll work. All right. I need Sandra, I'm going to pick on you, okay, if you don't mind. All right. Sandra, I'm going to pick on you. Okay. I'm just going to prove to you this stuff works. Hold that. Or you just hold it like that. Okay? No, like that. All right. So now I'm going to ask you some simple questions. I just want to understand where you're coming from, okay? Okay, so you got to make sure you're looking at me, okay? All right, so I got a deck of cards in my hand. You see the deck of cards? Now I'm going to break out the deck of cards into 4 suits, right? Hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades. Let's narrow that down. Pick 2 suits. Okay, well that leaves with what? Diamonds and clubs, we have what? Hearts and spades, okay? So we got hearts and spades. 2 nice colors, right? Hearts and spades. If you had to narrow that down, how would you narrow that down? Hearts and spades? Hearts? Okay, like red. Okay, now, so all I have is the suit of hearts, the cards in my hand, right? Now I have low cards, 1 to 5. I have medium cards, right? 6 to 10. And then I have the high cards, right? You with me so far? Okay, all hearts. Pick 2 of them. Medium, low, medium, high. 2 sections, not individual cards, just 2 sections.
Oh, okay, medium high.
Medium and high, right? Medium and high, okay? So that drops out the bottom, medium, high. Narrow that down for me, medium and high. High, you wanna go high? Okay. So we got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of hearts, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of hearts. You with me so far? So, narrow that down. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give me, narrow it down, knock down 2 of them for me. Huh?
Okay.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9? 7, 8, 9 leaves us 6 and 10. Take your pick. Which one do you favor? 6 and 10? 10? 10 of hearts is what you favor. You sure? All right, so she's going to tell you. What do I got? Every single time, it works. It's how do you sequence questions in such a way that you make them arrive at your conclusion. So, yeah, now I got your attention, right? Now isn't that cool? So in other words, the point is this. In selling, most of us don't take time to write down questions. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to send you a copy of the book that Start Selling. In there has all the information I gave you. And what you're going to be able to do is, I'm going to ask you to start writing out the script for the questions. Everybody goes into a sales process. This gets back to the financial planner. He was winging it. You know what I mean? He was just winging it. And he was basically, as Jeffrey Gitomer says, what? Throwing up on me with all his what? Features, right? And so as soon as he did that, what did I do? Shut down. But if I can go in asking key questions, knowing full well where I want to drive that, I'm telling you, by the time we get to the end, they're more open to your presentation. Now, let me emphasize that. I'm not selling. I'm what? Just simply asking questions before I present the product. That's all I'm doing. Is everybody with me? All right, now are there any questions? Any questions? Now this is not by the way, for those of you who've seen my video, you were expecting woohoo, run and all that. I didn't want to do that today. I do a lot of presentations and I do a lot of cool presentations. You go online and find my videos. But one of the things I'm finding is that every time I do a training, is that people walk away and they go, okay, that was cool. I heard what you're saying. I really enjoyed it. Then when I talked to them later on, I said, did you use any of it? What did most people say?
No.
No. So what I wanted to do today, I said, I'm not going to use a presentation. I just want to teach you something that I think you can use. Folks, this has made me so much money. It isn't even funny. It really isn't. This has made me so much money. So sometimes we want to focus on our marketing piece, we want to focus on our website, we want to focus on everything else. But at the end of the day, if you remove technology, what does it come down to? The relationship. So why is it that we just don't spend more time working on our script as far as what we say? And as you're talking to somebody who says, how do I amplify that pain? Remember, need, urgency, trust. Yes, Sandra.
I have a question. How do you handle it when you want to go through those phases that if it means actually have enough time to go tell the work? I love it, you know.
Right.
But what if you get somebody goes, let's cut to the chase, I gotta go.
Okay, if somebody says, by the way, when somebody says cut to the chase, I usually just say, we're done. I said, because if you don't have time to help show you money, you save you money. Look, write this one down. This is important. When you're talking to somebody, there's usually 3 areas of interest. Help me reduce costs, right? Help me increase revenue, or help me avoid missing opportunities. That's it. That's all people want to hear about. How do you reduce my costs? How do you increase my revenue? Or make sure I don't miss out on an opportunity? So when somebody says, hey, hurry up, walk. You know, I have this number in my head, and this is what I use to make me feel good when I talk to people, because I like to tell you I close everybody, but I don't. But I close a good percentage when I do. But here's the reality. There's a third of the people that if you just present it right, they'll buy from you. They get it. There's a third of the people, screw you, never buy from you, I don't care what you say. Okay? The faster you identify those and say bye-bye, the better off. Now, what you're fighting for, what I am saying you're fighting for is that middle third that is right in the middle, doesn't then you go left, I kind of see it, but I don't see it. That's the middle you're fighting for.
The swing voters.
The swing voters. That's what you do. Fight for the middle, don't fight for the edges. People will buy it, they see it, and you ever talk to somebody, you just present it, they're like, makes sense to me, let's do it.
Yes.
But by the way, here's one of the things Nobody in sales teaches this that I've seen. I teach it because it works. I don't know why people don't do it. Most people go through prospecting, go through qualifying, go through the investigative process, then do the presentation, and then when they get to pricing, what do you think most people do? Freak out. Right? Because as you're saying, I can do this for you, I can do this for you, I can do search engine optimization for you, I can get you going on ads, I can increase your conversion rate by modifying your website. And as she's telling me this, what am I thinking?
Change.
Yeah, well, how much is this going to cost me? Now, what if we insert price early into the conversation? So, I'm prospecting, found, how do I qualify you? As we're talking, I said, by the way, did you know that most people who want to use search engine optimization, search engine marketing, or even social media to market, pretty much today in the market, the budgets fall within $300 to $1,000 a month. Now, as soon as I gave the person that range, what did I just set up? The expectations, right? He said, okay, it can't be more than $1,000. Or if I really want to scare them early, I do this. Typically spend about $1,000 a month. And at that point, the person going, I can't afford that. I said, now before you think $1,000 a month, let's just talk a little bit. Later on, I talk about what is one client worth to you. Okay? So we handle that one. But here's where I timed out. When I finally get to the pricing, so I've gone through the questioning, I do the presentation, right? Do the presentation. Then when I show them the pricing, I said, we have a $1,000 package. We also have a $500 package and a $200 package. At that very moment that I present that pricing that way, what are they thinking? What do they feel?
They choose which one.
Yeah, they feel this sense of relief, like, oh, geez, great, like, thank you, Lord. Right? There's an option here for me. Because, in other words, see the difference. If I wait to the end to show them the price, like, how much is it? And they say, you've been there, I've been there. Somebody's telling me all the things I can do, and I'm like, how much is this going to cost? I don't want to ask. I want to seem like a cheapskate. How much? And they won't tell you the price. Well, and then you're like, okay, here comes the price. Before I give you the price, let me show you one more thing. And you're like, get to the price. And then when they get to the price, you're like, get out of it. Right? No way. I can't afford that. Here's the psychology of it. And then if they told you all that, and they give you a price that's too low, what do you think? Hey, there's something wrong with this. You see how the human mind is just all messed up? Right? And it really is all messed up. So here's what you need to do. Insert the price early. And most people say, well, don't build, because remember you've heard the statement, build value first, and then show them the price. This is what most people are taught. I disagree. I'm saying build a little value, introduce who you are, what you do. Give them what I call third-party numbers. On average, people in the market pay this much. And by doing that, I anchored a number early on. As I go through the questioning process, you just told me that the average customer is worth how much to you? Whatever it is. So if we could get one or two, then that would pay for itself. Does that make sense? Obviously it does. But when I get to the end and I show them the pricing, they're like, wow, you feel that sense of relief just like you do.
Plus, you can disqualify them early. I mean, if they don't have the budget for $5,000 to $1,000, then shake hands.
Because, by the way, you bring up a very good point, because a lot of us are afraid to cancel them out early. You know that third that'll never buy from you? For some reason, again, the psychology of it is this, is that sometimes we like to have a lot of people in our pipeline. It just makes us feel good. We know that 50%, maybe 70% of those people are never going to buy. But we keep them in the pipeline. I had a lady say, Victor, I follow up with a lady at least 10 to 15 times. What should I do? I'm not. You know, okay, here's what I said. I said, there's a third of the people who buy, da-da-da. I gave her that whole pitch, right? Here's what I said, you idiot. Stop, just stop going back. But her thing is like, if I keep her in the pipeline, it's still a maybe, plus I've established a relationship with her. And when I have a relationship with somebody, isn't it easier just to stay in touch? Because the biggest fear is to what? Create a new relationship. So if somebody, look, there was a gentleman back in 1949, Frank Beck, who wrote a wonderful book, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. And in there he talks about how he did a study that by the second visit, he didn't get the order. He never went back the third time. Because believe it or not, your best pitch is your first pitch. Your second pitch is not as good as your first pitch. And the best thing you can do is to say, when you're ready to do something, let me know. And guess what? If they're ready to do something, because you've presented your best pitch already, move on. I rarely do a third pitch. I rarely do a third pitch.
4 to 7 contacts before someone becomes a client.
Say it again.
I've heard 4 to 7 contacts before.
7 touches.
7 touches.
Absolutely.
before.
By the way, studies show, but here's the thing.
Touches aren't pitches.
That's the thing is, stay in touch with your customer, meaning what? You go back once in a while. You know what I mean? Put them in the pipeline. In other words, I'm not going to hit you every other week for something, but I can put you in my pipeline 3 months from now just to call you. How's it going? Da-da-da. Just let you know I'm still here. Click. But I'm not selling.
Right, okay.
The number is really, the number goes something like this. Most sales, 80% of the sales are made on the 5th or subsequent phone call.
Right.
The fascinating thing is 85 to 95% of the people actually drop out by the 3rd phone call, right? 3rd touch. I'm saying stay in touch, but that doesn't, that goes out of my funnel now, and that goes into my maybe funnel, right? And you just move them over here. I'm working on this. I'm working on money, right? That's it. So, you know, right there. So just put them in this one and then cycle them back in. What I'm saying is when people say I got 20 customers in my pipeline, I say, how long have they been in your pipeline? So when you send out a quote, for example, believe it or not, I mean, most people, again, it's true, 95% of what you say is forgotten within 1 week. Which means after you do your pitch, do you think they walk around going, don't think about that for another week? As soon as you walk out the door, it's bye-bye, you're gone. So either you sold it there or you didn't. It's just that simple. But what we like to do is hold on to that thought that maybe we got it. It's like, okay, I know they're thinking about it, right? We have this illusion in our head. And then when we call back, we're going to go say, by the way, do you have a chance to look at the proposal? What's your name again? What's your name again? Who's this? Oh, yeah, no. Can you send me another copy? I don't know where I put it. And all of a sudden you go into this whole thing. Remember back in the day we used to run to the post office and have to mail a brochure? Now when people say, Victor, can you mail me something? I'm like, no. Go to my website. Everything's on. I got videos. I said, when you're ready to look at pricing, let me know. Now, I don't say it like that. You know, it's like, you like no. I said, but people say, mail me something. I go, why? There's the internet. It's got video that does a better self job than I do.
The situations with clients change like 6 months to a year.
Every time.
So if you stay in touch.
That's what I mean. Cycle them back.
You cycle them back.
Cycle them back. And by the way, when you cycle them back the second time, maybe they got the budget this time. Okay, got the budget? Beautiful. Back in the pipe. That's it. That's all. By the way, I'm not saying like delete, cancel, never again. No. Yes.
Well, I think part of the key too is the low activity on your part. Like, don't spend so much time on these 80% customers out here. Spend your time on the 20% that's going to make your money. But if you can invite them to a free seminar, invite away. You know, no skin off your back, no extra time.
Absolutely.
No extra phone call, and they feel like you're thinking about them and you're inviting them to something they might be interested in.
By the way, that's why email newsletters are a beautiful thing. You're
Yeah,
still
you got
on my
something to
list.
send
I'm
out
still
in a
here.
newsletter,
I get most of my business comes through the internet. I always tell the story, just sharing. I spend about $25 a month on my marketing, and my average price point is $7,500 for a sale.
Pretty good.
Run that
return
little
on
ratio.
investment.
And so, does the internet work? Absolutely. But you have to target a specific market. And, you know, it is possible to market for a little bit of money. But do you need search engine optimization? Yes. Because I like that better than pay-per-clicks, by the way. That's just a personal thing. But pay-per-click is a great strategy if you're not ranking high. But I think if you have a website today, and I'm plugging you, and it's not search engine friendly, and you're not on the first, second, or third page, especially for the local markets, I think that you're missing out on a big opportunity. Especially if you're offering a local service, because nobody's gonna fly you to another state. You want to get some of the local stuff here. And if you don't believe me, just test this out. Go to YouTube, put sales training Georgia. Go to YouTube, put sales training Georgia. I should have about 20 videos on the first 2 pages. I own that space. You type in sales training Georgia on Google. If I'm not first or second, I'd be surprised. You ask me if you type in sales training, are you still there? What would I say? No. Well, personally, I don't care because I don't want to travel that much. My objective is that. But anyway, I digress. Get them going, sell them. But again, the faster you can cancel them out, the better. And I think we need to get over that fear of losing people. So hopefully, was this helpful a little bit?
Yeah.
Like I said,